Hey guys, so today I'm setting up my complete seed starting setup, or the first stage of the official seed starting setup in the dining room. This is a south facing window. I will be adding lights as well, and it'll get added onto as the season goes. I'll just show you how I do my lights. So I've got these lights on the top rack that are on these stands. So they stand on their own. These ones, I just use string to tie them up because I want some lights that are adjustable, especially for taller plants. I'll use the ones with stands for seedlings, and then these string lights I'll use for stuff that will grow tall enough to outgrow the stands. It's just a cotton twine. So I just do a simple loop. Note to self, don't drop your lights on the ground. It's a bad idea. Right, so that's just a simple tie there, and then I'm just going to keep it fairly tight. Put a loop through here. I don't tie knots because then you have to go ahead and unravel them all. And that can be quite frustrating. So just tie this pull away loop. As long as that's fairly snug, I can adjust it, and the tension will hold the light where I need it to go. So go ahead and do that on the other side. Alright, so my lights are set up and plugged in, and I'm just going to go ahead and tidy up my cords. I always do this with a fair amount of slack so that if I need to move them around, I've got a little bit of wiggle room. I'm just going to take that like that. Sorry, Gunner. You're a good boy. These ones especially want to give them a lot of slack because I do intend to move them up and down. So if I tape them on too tight, then they won't be able to adjust. So just gonna do that. And then I'll wrap those other ones in there as well. It's also a good idea when you've got electricals and water anywhere nearby to make sure that you've got loops in your cords so that if any condensation or moisture lands on them, it'll fall off the bend in it instead of following it back down to the space bar. That's probably even more important if you're in a greenhouse setting where there is a high humidity situation. So that's that part. And what I'll do is I'm going to move some of these guys into storage so that I have some space. Bottom shelf. These pumpkins are actually from 2019. And that one and this one, they're going to go in the compost bin because I can feel they're getting pretty soft. How about this one? Yeah, that one too. Still, 2 years, that ain't bad. And then what I'll do is I will just put this in here which also protects it from any drips that might come down off the side of the thing. It'll sit underneath this shelving unit so that no water can fall directly onto the space bar. My heating pad, when I use it, will end up being plugged into a separate outlet so that it is on 24/7, whereas the lights I turn off for night, and all I have to do is reach down with my foot and press the little button. It's easy to turn it on like this. There. So I can lower this set of lights for this tray. That's how I set myself up for my seed starting. So new seedlings will go under light for the first 2 or 3 weeks at least. And I sort of prioritize things that need more light. So once my tomatoes are out, they'll stay under light pretty much the whole time until the beginning of May. I'll often move them into the basement where it's a bit cooler to try and slow down the growth rate, help them strengthen. And at that point I'll take the lights off of them. But a lot of this stuff is just going to get light until it's a little bit bigger, a little bit more established, and then it'll just go on a shelf with full sunlight and no additional lighting. And the lighting isn't strictly necessary. You just want to know what glazing your windows have, because if your windows have the right kind of glazing, it can block all of the sunlight and prevent plants from growing well. Alright, so in the first week of February, I'm going to be starting my asparagus from seed. And I'm going to be transplanting my giant onions and leeks. They've been waiting a little bit longer. I'll show you those. As well as my giant onions and my leeks. This is also the time of the seeding schedule that I would normally be starting betony, which would have been refrigerated wet for at least 3 weeks by now. But I've got quite a few of those in the garden already, so I decided not to start any more this year. I feel like these are good. So, the breeding I've done on asparagus seed, it's pretty uncomplicated. You just want to sow them directly into soil. I read 1/2 inch depth. You want to have them sown in a very sunny place and warm. I think temperature between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius. So nothing too extreme. I don't think I'm going to put a heat mat on them necessarily. And they can take a while to germinate. I don't know about you guys, but the winter blues have been hitting me pretty hard. It can be very difficult to be motivated, and so I haven't been putting out videos. I know I've got garden planning videos still in the editing stages. I'm just trying to find enough motivation to keep going. Starting some asparagus for my sister-in-law as well. She wanted 4 plants. So because these have a very slow germination rate, I'm actually going to double sow these because I've got a lot of seeds. I definitely cannot use 100 asparagus plants. That's more than I will use. Just temporarily put them in this tray. As you can see, these onions I've let get a little bit bigger. They already have a secondary leaf, and they've got a fairly complicated root system already. So these are doing quite well, and these ones it's even more clear where the bulb is. You can see the distinct color difference there at the base. That's the bulb end. And you want to place that at least slightly below the soil level, because the roots don't do well in the air. Honestly, starting seeds, oh, thank you, Gunner. He's just kicking himself in the face. Starting seeds has always been a way for me to help manage the bleakness of February. I've been particularly prone to seasonal depression pretty much my whole life, which isn't very surprising considering how long and dark the winter can be up north here. But seed starting has definitely been a way for me to exercise hope as well as patience. And of course, garden planning has always been a big part of that patience. You know, if I can't do anything in the garden, at least I can plan for the garden. So. Last thing I have to do today is to transplant my mini tomatoes. Now, you might be able to notice that one of these things is not like the other. So this one, if you're looking at the leaves are fuzzy. It's clearly a different leaf shape. It's much more rounded, whereas these have a very flat leaf with no fuzz, or even a different color. So these I know from last year, these are my mini tomatoes. This one is a wild card. I have no idea what this is, but it's not a mini. Anyways, I will be transplanting my minis into, these are I think probably like 3-inch containers. They're pretty big. They're bigger than these. These would be about a 2-inch square, I think. So with that wildcard tomato, I'm not gonna transplant it actually because it's going to end up needing such a big pot probably and take up a lot of space and isn't really ideal for growing inside unless you have the space and you want to, you know, be growing in a 5-gallon pot or in your basement. But these little guys are fine, and you can see he's got a healthy little root system. Not too root bound yet. It's about the right amount of time though, so I'm going to knock off these lower leaves right here. Just going to pinch them off, and then I'll bury it just above that point. So these are a tomato called Mini Bell, and I'm growing them just to get some tomatoes inside before the snow's gone. Worked really well for me last year. I started them a little bit earlier this year, so hopefully we'll get them a little bit sooner. And the last thing I'll do in my video is just give you a shot of the greens I've been growing. So you can see how that's doing. I think I actually could probably start picking them. Alright, here we go. So here's what we've got growing in the window this week. These are the onions we transplanted the other day, as well as the alyssum that we seeded. Below that, just down here, is the leftover onion seeds that I'm just going to sort of let be green onions, and the asparagus we just seeded. And then there's this unit over here, plus a very dashing gunner. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Gunner. Yes. Good boy. Good boy. You look how handsome. Alright. Excuse me. Back up, please. Good boy. These are the rest of the onions that we transplanted the other day. These are the Cortland. These are the French ones, Juan something. And as you'll see, I've been using some of these fabric bags as well when I run out of seed trays. They seem to work fairly well in our winter growing trays. We've got some lettuce, the tomatoes, the tomatoes we just transplanted. You can see this ginger is doing quite well. Let's trim a little bit of it. It's got a true leaf on it. The other ginger knobs are starting to green up a little bit. Our sweet potato is beginning to sprout pretty vigorously. You can see we've got, this would be the kale, these are the cabbages. I'm going to start harvesting baby leaves off of those. And then this is a lettuce. I'm not sure which kind this one is. This one is the little gem. This one might be the tennis ball head lettuce. We've got corn salads, spinach, and then some nice happy looking cabbages back here. So again, we'll be harvesting baby leaves off of all of these for our winter greens. And then in the tray behind is all the onions we just transplanted today. So with that happy little view right there, I'll leave you for this week. Thanks for watching. We'll see ya.